Why don't I just kick you the question? You can talk, and then we'll play off each other a little bit. Like, how can somebody I want sustainable packaging, I don't want to greenwash, I don't want to mislead consumers, I actually want what's best for the planet, but I don't know. There's so many factors. How do I wrap my head around this? What would you say to someone who has that genuine perspective, but genuinely doesn't know what to do?
Yeah, I mean, first you kind of just, I feel like, have to lay out what you have to present first. You can't just kind of pull stuff out of a hat and just say, oh, you could make this work, you could make this work potentially. It's kind of, showing them the different options that they have available for whatever specific product they're trying to package. Mm-hmm. And that can take many things into account, like specific materials. If they are, looking at different aspects like freshness, then you whittle down specific materials and can eliminate certain things to really dial in what you're specifically trying to focus on.
I think that's a great point. The product that you're packaging dictates a lot of this. You know, for example, Contempo Specialty Packaging, which is a leader in the cannabis packaging space, which is probably where a lot of you guys know us from. We package a lot of flower, right? It's the #1 selling category in the cannabis industry. And people who saw our 100% hemp packaging, hemp fiber packaging, said, oh my gosh, I want hemp. And we're like, this just doesn't apply to flower because you got to keep the flower fresh. And unfortunately, we can do a hemp label to go around your airtight jar, but what you're packaging is a huge factor, and sometimes that limits the options, and it's really the requirements of the product being packaged. So that's #1. That can be limiting. It can be frustrating, right? People who really care about sustainability, you might not be able to go with the most sustainable option because of what you're packaging. But set that aside. Let's pick a product that doesn't have huge requirements as it relates to moisture and oxygen barrier, freshness. What are some of the factors that go into determining and evaluating? I want to give you, our audience, the power to think through and come up with your own opinions about what's good for the planet. So let's talk about some of those factors that make something sustainable or not.
Yeah, and first thing I jump to immediately is end of life, considering where your packaging is going to end up after your consumer uses it. I feel like that's a huge thing to pay attention to, because you don't want your brand floating around in a landfill, certainly, and
500 years later, they're still around, right?
Yeah, and you don't want to see, if you're using maybe like a plastic shopping bag, not that that's, terrible. I know it's a widely used practice right now. You don't want, your specific brand, like we don't want Contempo shopping bags floating around in the streets, certainly, especially, since we have a huge focus on sustainability.
Well, actually, plastic shopping bags are a horrible thing now based on the newest Contempo innovation, which is a PHA shopping bag.
Yeah.
It looks like plastic, performs like plastic. Get your sample by emailing wow@contempopackaging.com. That was pretty good, right?
Absolutely.
Pretty good segue.
Great way to tie it in.